Welcome to the Anglian Flaneurs. For this part of the walk, we're in Brockwell Park and Brixton. I'm with Steve and Cass. Sorry if I'm a little distracted at the moment. Steve has stepped in dog poo game, which he always does on our walk, and I'm having to put up with his moaning. Rockwell Park is a new area for me. I'm unfamiliar with Brockwell and the surrounding area of Brixton, which we'll be covering later. The park is a centre for nature conservation. It's Grade 2 listed on the Register of Historic Park and Gardens. The park is home to Brockwell Hall, and during the First World War, Brockwell Park raised a large flock of sheep, and during World War II, 3 sites in the park were set aside for wartime food production. Over its history, the park has been open to many music events. We'll talk about those in a few moments, but also there was the golden period in the 20s, when something like 15 to 20 cricket matches would be played here on a Saturday and Sunday every weekend. During the summer months, of course. In 1978, 150,000 people attended a Rock Against Racism carnival, headlined by Elvis Costello and the Attractions. A further Rock Against Racism event was held in September 1979, including performances by Aswad and the magnificent Stiff Little Fingers. August 1984, the park hosted a GLC free festival when Ken Livingstone was mayor, and there were performances from The Fall and the Spear of Destiny. Marquis Smith of The Fall was given some abuse. I think it was pelted by a number of objects, and the award-winning poet Benjamin Zephaniah managed to calm the crowd before the truly magnificent Damned came on. Marquis Smith was never short of an opinion, maybe somewhat of a Marmite character. But I sure would have loved to have seen Dave Vanian and Captain Sensible of the Damned play. Such a shame it wasn't there. Crikey, this is making my day. We're here at Brockwell Lido. Earlier on we had the disappointment of seeing Crystal Palace and the pool there completely empty, but look what's before us now. The Lido was designed for the London County Council Parks Department, and it replaced the Brockwell Park bathing ponds. Many of these Lidos did replace the sort of Victorian bathing ponds that were very popular at the time. In 1990, the pool was closed, but the BLU, the Brockwell Lido's Users Group, was established to lobby for the reopening. And in 1994, I'm glad to say, the pool was reopened. If you like your outdoor swimming and your Lidos, then I recommend watching Lucy Blackster's film The Lido, which was filmed here in 1995. I just love this place. Sorry to keep going on about it, but if we're able to continue these walks over the next few years, then the aim is to try and capture all the Lidos. My sister-in-law has just started swimming at London Fields Lido, which makes me particularly jealous, so hopefully I'll be able to get a few swims in there this year. We're just at the corner of Effra Parade, and in March 1984 here, Lambeth Council sent in 200 police officers to evict 7 squatted terraced houses. Effra Parade was very much just about on the front line after the riots of 1980. We're not going to speak too much about the Brixton riots of 1981. We're going to come back to Brixton, and in that vlog I promise you I'll speak much further about those awful days. We've now mentioned Effra Parade, so are we walking over the magical River Effra? Vlogger John Rogers, The Lost Byway, has just recently put out a vlog on the River Effra, so I recommend you going to watch that. We'll cover the River Effra in a bit more detail when we come back to Brixton, but in the meantime I recommend that you go to John Newman's book. It's well worth a read. Sorry if it feels that I'm missing out a lot, not talking about the River Effra too much, not talking about the Brixton riots of 1981, but when people talk about the streets talking to you, I'm in Brixton now and the streets aren't talking, they're shouting at me. I just feel so unprepared. I feel there's so little I can cover today, so I'm looking to come back a couple of times and hopefully we can do it justice. To be honest, I'm just completely overwhelmed by its history and what is here, and 25 minutes, 30-minute blog just isn't really going to do it, but hopefully we can give you a good taste of what our day was about, and you enjoy that. We're just passing the Effra Social now, which is a former Conservative house in a beautiful Victorian building in the heart of Brixton. Legend has it that Churchill himself occasionally had a drink here. The population of London increased from about 1.5 million to 7 million during the 19th century, and many of these places were built in the late Victorian era when the train route was connecting Brixton to the west end of London and to the city, and you can see the wealth here. You can see a lot of people would commute north of the river and were living in leafy and salubrious Brixton. We're coming to the main centre of Brixton, and already going in my mind is all the areas that we're going to miss out today, like the Black Cultural Archives. As I said a few moments ago, I promise we will come back and do this place justice. We're now in the famous Windrush Square, and that's to commemorate the SS Windrush that took people over from the Caribbean in 1948 to help rebuild Britain after the Second World War. We're surrounded by the famous Ritzy Cinema, Brixton Library and Lambeth Town Hall. Brixton was somewhat of a shopping mecca in late Victorian times, with some iconic department stores. Just compare that to what we have now with Bluewater and Lakeside. Lakeside and Bluewater, those names just fill you with misery, don't they? How pleasant it is just to come to Brixton and just see this history, this retail history. The cinema was opened on the 11th of March 1911 as the Electric Pavilion. In 1954, it was renovated by noted cinema architect George Coles, to install cinemascope, but by the early 70s it was struggling. But in 1976 it was reinvented as the Little Bit Ritzy, run in collaboration with the London Cinema Collection. Pat Foster was the man behind this renovation and really deserves a lot of credit for the Ritzy being the iconic place it is today. We're now in historic Electric Avenue. Built in the 1880s, it was the first market street in London to be lit by electric light. And as some of you might know, the avenue was the inspiration to Eddie Grant's 1983 single Electric Avenue, which reached number 2 in both the UK and US singles charts. Let's take in for a few moments this wonderfully eclectic and vibrant marketplace. Hopefully the picture by Baron Corver in 1895 gives you some idea of the magnificence, the splendour of this place in late Victorian times, and I know there are plans to restore it to that previous splendour. Even without its roof, the place still has a real special energy about it. Look, a lot's talked about multiculturalism, and I think it means different things to different people, and I'm not here to preach, but if you want to see the splendours of multicultural Britain, then please come here, because I think this has an incredibly positive energy about it. We're now coming up to Pogba Road, and this is an area that recently has raised a lot of interest. There's proposals for a 20-storey tower block development, and when I last researched this, I think the whole process is in consultation with Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, so I'm not quite sure what the outcome is. But from what I hear, there's a lot of protests locally against a tower block development that would, if you like, destroy the vistas of the market and Brixton, and would really not stand too well in the area. We're now fully in the Brixton Market Village environment and experience. Hopefully the pictures you see before you give you a really good flavour of what Brixton Market is about, and explains it far better than my words could ever do. We're looking for somewhere to eat and have a drink, but really there's just too much choice before us. You know, there's such an array of different eateries, restaurants in front of us, and we're just wandering around like three useless idiots, not really knowing where to eat. Apologies here for going over the same places. As I said earlier, I don't particularly know Brixton that well, so I just might be going around in circles, but hopefully you enjoy the pictures. You can see there where the name Brixton comes from, originating from Brixystan, meaning the stone of Brixy, a Saxon lord. But I like its description as a global meeting place for the world with an Afro-Caribbean soul. This place is quite symbolic. Is it a sign of the new Brixton? Or is it reclaiming the old Brixton? Is Brixton being gentrified? We finally made a decision on somewhere to eat and have a drink, and Steve, who has a problem with Stratford High Street, is sampling some local IPA, Brockwell IPA. My wife asked me to look out for some African fabric shops. Well, I spoiled for choice here. The owner of this shop was quite happy for me to go in and film. again, we're just filming what we see. There's nothing really structured or planned about this. As I keep repeating, we're probably going around in circles. We've just come upon Universal Roads Records. That's a place I would seriously recommend. As a newcomer, I'm struggling with Brixton. Now, I don't mean that in a negative way, I mean it in a positive way. I'm struggling with its identity. Now, a lot of the images I had, early 80s, depending on maybe the papers you read, were somewhat negative of the area. And at the time, I was always questioning that. And I really wanted to come here and see for myself what Brixton was about. Now, I know spending 2 to 3 hours in a place doesn't even remotely give you a start on what a place is about. And, reading books, reading stuff off the web can help, but you don't really know a place until you live here for years. But even so, you still like to get a toehold in and on a place. And, I'm seeing a rich the Victorian history. I'm seeing the problems with the 80s. I'm seeing where Brixton is now, and I'm just not sure that I remotely understand this. But I do know I love what I'm seeing. And we stopped off at the Trinity Arms in Trinity Square, and to be honest, it was 3 or 4 minute walk from Brixton Market, and this place confused me even more. And I realised this is why I love London so much. You can live here for 50 years and you don't know a place. You're always wanting to learn more. You're always trying to get an understanding, and you feel you're never there, but not really in a negative sense. It's always just a quest, a learning process, and that's what I particularly felt about today. We left Steve to go back to his posh Surrey mansion and estate, and Cass and I took the train back to Waterloo, and we just decided to walk along the South Bank and the River Thames to get back to Liverpool Street. This is all extra footage, nothing to do with Brockwell Park and Brixton, but we thought you might enjoy it. Looking over to the city at night time with all the bright lights is always worthwhile capturing. We've got the globe on this side as well. And it gives me a good excuse to go to my favourite drinking establishment, the Rake in Borough Market, for a quick snifter before we arrive back at Liverpool Street. Thanks for joining us today. Cass and I are about to make our way back to Liverpool Street and then back into East Anglia. And it's goodbye from the Anglian Flaneurs. Hope to see you soon.